Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. Today, Evan, is a very special episode. This is the 100th episode of the Light Sports Ramble. It is an amazing feat, and I'll take people back that may be new listeners, and I know I've told you this. This whole Light Sports Ramble thing started on a dare. It was one dare that I would never do it and post it on YouTube. And my first ever ramble was about how the rookie quarterbacks were going to fare in their second season. Russell Wilson, I can't even think of the quarterbacks. Andrew Luck, and Robert Griffin III. That was my first ramble ever. And now 99 episodes later, we're talking about having a co-host with yourself. We're talking about having our YouTube shows actually published on yourdailycowboysfootballfix.com. We have a Facebook page. On Twitter, we're getting a lot of responses. I just can't believe how well this show has been perceived, how people are interacting with it. It is just something that is actually almost like nirvana to me. I mean, I love talking sports, and now I get to actually do a show with yourself. And people are actually enjoying it and interacting with us. So it's almost like a dream come true that we're at episode 100. I know you haven't been with me the whole time, but you've been with me for about half of it.
Yeah.
You know, and from here on out, it's you and me co-hosting every night. So I'm extremely excited about that. And again,
what have I got myself into?
Yeah, look what you did, man. It's never ending. You're stuck with me for the rest of your life, I think. I don't know who's worse off in that deal. So
you might be worse off.
I have no idea, bud. Good thing we get along. Yes, it's gonna be a long time before the ramble ends. But with that said, let's get into, as always, thanking our newest person that we're working with. That's Cass at yourdailycowboysfootballfix.com. I know it's only been not even 3 or 4 days, Evan, but it feels like we've been working with her forever. I mean, the site is awesome, able to publish our show, and I enjoy being able to reach out to other fan bases other than Packer fans. I mean, I love the Packer fans, don't get me wrong, but I love NFL fans because I think our show is not only Packer geared, but you and I have heard the comments. Fans of other teams are listening and actually enjoying the show and learning some things, and that's what it's all about. We love doing it. If you want to follow Cass, her Twitter handle is @cowgirlcass22. Follow her. She is a football guru in my mind. Some of her stuff is just amazing. She knows her football, and it is just amazing to be able to have the ramble on her website. But with that,
her site is very well run and organized.
It is. It really is. The sites that we've looked at, and even some of the sites before you came aboard, Evan, had wanted me to publish on there, and they were kind of second rate and just thrown together real quickly. This site is top notch, and I enjoy it. And it takes me a little bit to submit the draft, but I'll tell you what, it is well put together. So with that said, though, it is Thursday night, which everyone knows is Packer Preview, and we've got a great game on Sunday. Vikings Packers, Mr. Jennings coming back to Lambeau Field, Evan. He gets to come back and face all of the fans that he so much said he loved, but had to go to Minnesota because that gives him the best chance to win. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to let you get a few words in. Vikings Packers, Jennings coming back to Lambeau Field. Take it away.
Okay, as you said, it's Viking Packer week at Lambeau Field. As we know, this rivalry dates all the way back to 1961, and the Packers have beaten the Vikings 7 of their last 8 games, and in the Packer wins, all but 2 of them have been blowouts. And I think we all remember back in the Super Bowl season, the second game we played against the Vikings, that very next day, the Vikings fired their head coach. So, a lot of history among these teams, including the Packers getting Viking coaches fired after we killed them. So this is not going to be an easy one, even though the Vikings are not a very good football team right now. But not counting guys on the IR, the Packers currently have 13 guys on the injury list. They have Don Barclay, who did not practice on Wednesday. Evan Diedrich-Smith, who was limited practice on Wednesday. Casey Hayward was no-go. Johnny Jolly was no-go. Clay Matthews, full practice. Andy Mulambo, limited. Mike Neal, limited. James Nixon, no practice. Nick Perry, no. Ryan Pickett, limited. Aaron Rodgers, no. Sam Shields, no. And the newest addition, Micah Hyde, with a groin injury, did not practice today at all. Micah Hyde saying that he's going to be ready to go come Sunday. He's going to practice tomorrow. They're just, to rest it a little bit. But he says he'll be fine, but that's got to be worrisome, especially with the name right before him on the injury report being Sam Shields. Packers and James Nixon on there, too. That's 3 corners on the injury report. The Packers could not afford 4 corners on the injury report with Hayward, and the Packers cannot afford to lose any more defensive backs. They're already thin there as it is. The Vikings.
Before you get into the Vikings, Evan, oh my God, that list is longer than a kid's Christmas list. I mean,
yeah, and the names on that list too.
The thing, and I know we're going to get into the Vikings update, but before we actually get into some of this, that is concerning with all the defensive backs that are on that list. I know we're facing Christian Ponder, but we're going to be putting people in that are not familiar with that system, and a defense that is already struggling. That is very worrisome for me, and we'll touch on that a little bit later on some of the keys to victory. But holy cow! That list, that list just seems to increase day by day, and not even from game situations. It's like all of a sudden you look at it and it's like another name and another name. Holy cow! Well, go ahead, get into the Vikings injury report, because I know there's a big name on the injury report for the Vikings.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't find their full injury report, but I do know of 2 names on it. Paul Allen, I believe his name is. He does the Vikings broadcast on the radio in Minneapolis. He was on the Chuck and Wickett show on 1250 WSSP this morning, and he was talking to them. And he had mentioned that Adrian Peterson's hurting right now with a groin. So he expects to play, but he may not be able to go. And if he does go, he's going to be limited. And everyone's favorite former Packer, Mr. Greg Jennings, he's hurting, I believe, with an Achilles injury. So he sat out last week against Seattle, and this week he wants to play. He's expecting to play, but who knows? I don't know if he's starting to fear coming back to Green Bay in uniform or what. But he's now on the injury report too after last week. So those are kind of key guys on those reports.
I'll tell you what, Evan. I hope he plays. I want to see him go out and play. Even with their depleted defensive backfield, I'm sure that a couple of those defensive players want to get a good legal hit on Greg Jennings. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go out and play dirty against him, but you and I have talked about this, and we feel the way he left and the way that he talked about Green Bay after he left was just low. I mean,
yeah, it was very low.
You and I talked about the character of a man that you and I really, and I'd say I admired him. I thought he was a true definition of a Packer while he played in Green Bay. And, I don't mind if somebody leaves for the business, but just tell me why you're leaving. Don't make up things, and then don't talk bad about the organization that supposedly fed your family, and that's why you're going, for the money to feed your family. And all of a sudden you're starting to badmouth the organization that did a lot for you. And especially the men.
Don't forget, he wanted the younger guys to be able to grow, too. You don't want to stunt their growth.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about that. That's a bunch of BS.
Yeah, you know how I feel about that, too.
That's a bunch of BS. He was going to lose his number one role, and he couldn't swallow it. So he went over to Minnesota. Apparently, and I'm gonna keep saying this. I don't care if people say I'm an idiot for saying it, but the comment that sticks out in my mind is that he went to Minnesota because that gave him the best chance to win. And that's just a bunch of BS. I mean, even when he left, yeah, they were a playoff team last year, but you leave Aaron Rodgers to go to Christian Ponder, and that gives you the best chance to win? No way. No way in the world.
But if he was smoking, I would definitely like some.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy talk. That's my famous line, crazy talk. But with that said, Evan, we got the injury report out. Key injuries on the Packers, of course. And let's get right into the defensive side of the ball. I know you've got some keys to victory, But talk about the defensive side of the ball. What do we have to do there, to be able to come out victorious with all these injuries? What do you think they're going to do?
Well, there's one thing the past couple weeks that the Packers have been having a hard time stopping, and that's stopping the run. They have to stop the run. Either it's Peterson or somebody else. They have to stop the run. They can't allow teams to get 4, 5, 6 yards on first down, put in comfortable second down situations and then comfortable third down situations. They can't afford to do that. That's keeping the defense on the field, and then that's why you see those long 8, 12, 11-minute drives late in the game, because the defense gets worn out from being on the field. So they have to stop the run. They have to force Christian Ponder into second and third and long situations, force them to throw on second and third down. And that being said, they have to get pressure on Christian Ponder. They have to make him uncomfortable and make him make poor decisions, which we all know he's capable of doing. And you said this multiple times these past couple of weeks. You're starting to sound like a broken record here. That's how much we've done it. If we don't get pressure on him, as you say, we're going to make him look like an all-pro when he is not. He is a fringe starter, but if we don't get pressure on him, the Packers are going to make him look like an all-pro. So that's what they need to do on defense. They have to stop the run and get pressure on Ponder. If they can do that, they should be able to force some turnovers. If they can force turnovers, it keeps Peterson off the field, and it keeps the Packer offense on the field. So those are what I say they have to do on defense on Sunday.
Yeah, and the one key to victory for me is the turnovers. And, on today's screenshot, I have the Vikings Packers capsule from foxnews.com. And one of the stats that stood out to me is that both of these teams are in the bottom of the NFL in turnover margin. The Vikings are -8. The Packers are -6th. So that means the Packers are 24th in the league. The Vikings are 27th. Neither defense has been coming up with the big play and the turnovers. I think the biggest key to the game on Sunday, which defense is going to create the turnover. It doesn't have to be multiple turnovers. I think it's going to be who can create a turnover. And my concern here, Evan, and maybe you can shed some light, you had mentioned this in the recap of the Giants game. Because of the late injury to Shields, you thought that Caper had to get away from his game plan on defense. Now that we know these people are injured, is Caper's going to be a little more aggressive against Ponder? I mean, it's one thing against Manning. We know that Manning can read the blitz, get rid of the ball with those wideouts that he has that were Nix and Cruz, because they can cause damage. But now that we're going up against an offense that is actually pretty inept, the stats say they're 26th overall, 25th passing. Do you think Capers dials up some creative blitzes this week to get pressure? Because we're not doing it with the front four. We're not doing it with our down linemen.
Yeah. Should he? Yes, he should. But the question is, will he? Probably not. That's been one of Capers' biggest issues, this entire season. He doesn't dial up the pressure. They're playing teams straight up, and they're losing those one-on-one battles, and they're not getting pressure on the quarterback. Bill Michaels, who has a show on, he's a statewide network, but he has his show on the station that I intern for as well. He's talked to players on opposing teams, and they've said that the defense has become very predictable. Like, he doesn't dial anything up. They play you straight up. And the defense, the offense that the defense is facing, when they know what Capers is going to throw at them, which is that soft zone, the corners are generally about 7 to 10 yards off the receiver, and they're going to send 3 to 4 guys and play that, like I said, very soft zone coverage. That could make my 4-year-old nephew look like an all-pro quarterback, let alone, an NFL quarterback like Ponder. So will he? Probably not. Should he? Definitely.
Yeah, he definitely should. We haven't seen a lot of it this year, but you and I have talked about this. When you blitz, you're going to man up, and some of that might be that he just doesn't have faith that we're going to be able to man up. I think you got to take a chance. We're not getting the pressure. We've got to get creative. We've got to disguise some things, and we've got to do something to bring the pressure. I think this is a great opportunity. Yeah. I don't think the Vikings offensive line is as talented as the last couple of teams that we've seen. I think we can run the blitz at him and get to Ponder, because Ponder, when he gets the pressure, he does make that mistake. He'll just throw the ball up, and that's where that turnover may come from. So that was my key, is the turnovers. I know that you had talked about your keys. I'm going to let you get back into some of the other keys to victory for Sunday.
Yeah, the last comment I'm going to make about what you were saying, if the Packers can't man up against the Vikings, where the only real threat you have in the passing game right now is a hobbled Greg Jennings. I believe Randolph is still hurt, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Kyle Rudolph. I believe he's still hurt. So if you can't man up the Vikings and just put a safety over cheating to Jennings' side, then you have problems, because they have no threats in the passing game at all, really. Patterson can be a deep threat, but I don't think he's skilled enough as a wide receiver yet to really pose a lot of problems. Now, to go back to what I was talking about, keys to victory, if we're going to switch over to the offensive side of the ball, it's really going to come back to quarterback play. Which quarterback is going to have the better game? Is it going to be Scott Tolzien, or is it going to be Christian Ponder? Now, both quarterbacks, Ponder has been around the Vikings for a couple of years now, but he's been a fringe starter. I'm just going to say how it is. He's a fringe starter. He's not a franchise quarterback, as we were just talking about the other day. And then Scott Tolzien, he's making a second career start. So whichever quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes, that's the team that's going to win. And we all obviously hope that it's Tolzien. And the other one is establishing the ground game. Packers have big old Eddie Lacy back there. If he can get going on the ground, keeps Adrian Peterson on the sidelines, he keeps the Vikings defense on the field, which isn't very good. And he got, Lacy ran really well last time against the Vikings. It's going to tire those Vikings out. And the Vikings, they need to get Adrian Peterson going. If they can, that's been their biggest struggle the past few games, especially the last time they played the Packers. I believe he only had 13 carries during the game, which part of that was the Packers jumped up on them early, so they couldn't run the ball. With this, it's not going to be a high-scoring affair, so the Vikings need to get their ground game going early, because if Peterson can get going early, he can take over a game, as we know Eddie Lacy can as well. So, and they also need to protect the offensive line of the Packers needs to protect Tolzien, because Jared Allen hasn't had that strong of a year. But like Julius Peppers, he can still take over a game. And if Marshall Newhouse is playing that right side again, if Barkley can't go, I wouldn't be surprised if they flop Allen on that side and have him go up against Newhouse, which, God help us all, we might be having to start our fourth quarterback of the year if Allen goes one-on-one with Marshall Newhouse, which, Newhouse tries hard, but he's not an NFL starter. So those are the big keys to victory for me on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, you brought up a couple things in there that I want to touch on. And the first one is the ground game. And even with Eddie Lacy's dismal performance last week, and I call it dismal not because of him, just because of the way the game folded out.
Running lanes.
Yep, and you and I talked about this. They stacked the box, and McCarthy was so stubborn and thick-headed that he was just going to hand it off, when you and I thought it would have been a great opportunity for play action until we can establish that, hey, we're going to throw the ball. You're going to have to pull a guy out of the box or two guys out of the box. I'd actually mentioned this today when I was on the website commenting to some people what I'd like to see offensively, Evan, and you can chime in because I have some other things to add in here that you had talked about. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see McCarthy get a little adventurous. First down, second down, go with maybe a 3-4 wide receiver set, spread them out, and actually run out of that formation instead of just going out on third down, 3 wide receiver set, we know we're going to throw. Why doesn't he mix up that formation? Do a 3-4 wide receiver set on first or second down, spread the field out. They're going to have to take some guys out of the box just because of numbers, and let our guys man up and go one-on-one. our run blocking, Evan, is not a problem. Our line can run block. I know Newhouse is struggling against the pass, but I think that line can really block against the run. So what do you think about
Newhouse is the weak link even on the running game.
He's going to be
there too.
He's going to be the weak link. But what do you think about what I just said? Taking some chances with a different type of formation, because the only time I was seeing 3-4 wide was on third down and long distance. Well, we know what's going to happen. But why don't we add an element of surprise and try to run out of that formation? What do you think about that?
Well, I like the idea, but the problem you're going to run into is they're going to have to show they can throw the football in that formation, because if they don't show that they can throw the football spreading out the field a little bit, then the Vikings are just going to continue to stack the box. So if the Packers are able to go 3-4 wide, protect Holstein in the pass, in pass protection, and get some strikes downfield, that's going to keep those safeties back. So you're going to have to have two over the top safeties, and then that should open up some running lanes. But with the Giants last week not respecting the deep passing game of Tolzien, which Tolzien did throw the ball pretty well down the field, and then the Eagles doing the same, they're going to keep selling out to stop the run until they can prove, yes, we can beat you in the pass. Now, when you're run blitzing the way the Giants were last week, if you spread it out 3-4 wide and throw out of that formation that the Vikings run blitz like the Giants were, now you're putting the offensive line into a tough spot with them sending too many people for the O-line to block. But the offense has to be able to throw out of the formation in order for it to be successful running, just like they have to be able to run out of the I formation, inverted wishbone, those type of formations. They have to be able to run out of those formations before they can throw the play action in there. And the one thing I haven't seen since Rodgers went down, which was working really well, is line up in the shotgun with Lacey or Starks to the left or to the right, and then they do that quick pitch to the left, quick pitch to the right, and get Lacey or get Starks going downhill. I haven't seen them do that either. I hope to see some more of that.
I don't think they've run it once since Rodgers went down. Now that you bring it up, that's a good point. I don't think they've run that play one time, but it's successful. Hey, I'll take 3-4 yards at a crack, because last time I checked, we have 3 downs to get 10 yards, and if we're getting 3 to 4, if we're getting 3.5 yards per play, that's going to be a first down. And I'm okay with an 8-minute drive to score a touchdown. Like you said, it's going to keep Peterson off the field. That's what we need to do. So going back, and I'm going to touch on a couple of your keys. Quarterback play. You got Tolzien, you got Ponder. When I look at the numbers, and this actually surprised me when I pulled the rankings. Where do you think the Packers offense is actually ranked in the NFL, Evan?
Well, overall in the season, I would probably say 12 or 13.
How about third?
Oh.
Overall, third-ranked offense. 6th rushing, 5th passing. It surprised me, too. I would have thought we were 10, 11, 12 like you. Which tells me...
I'm wondering how the Packers be ranked over these last 3 games without Rodgers. That would be my question. Because I know red zone percentage-wise, they're ranked really low, and first downs are ranked really low. So I wonder what would be these last 3 games. But I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you never cut me off, bud. That's how it goes. You and I know how it goes. We just ramble. That's the way it goes. The thing is, and you hit it on the head, the quarterback play to me is key. But when I looked at one of the stats, this really stood out to me. I didn't even know this. The Packers didn't allow a sack against the Giants. First time since Week 4 last season against the Saints. Now, what that tells me is, when I watched the game, I would have never have thought that. Because Tolzien was pressured. So that doesn't mean that we gave up any sacks. What it means is we're still not protecting well, because Tolzien had to get rid of the ball quicker. But what it's telling me from the Tolzien side is that he is being pretty smart with the ball, getting it out. I know he's got to work on his interceptions, but the 2 interceptions he threw, I didn't see a ton of pressure at that point. So the pressure plays...
Well, they were quick strike passes, so that's why you didn't see a lot of pressure, because they were quick 3-step drop and go.
Exactly. So what I'm thinking, though, is if we can keep the Jared Allens, and actually the Brian Robinson off of Tolzien, we could be okay. I'm okay with the quick throws. Tolzien's got to be smarter with it. In order for that to work, and I'm going to touch on your stat, we've got to establish that run game, and we do have Eddie Lacy, and I gave you the stat in the pre-show. Eddie Lacy has 645 yards rushing over the last 7 games. That is tops in the NFL over the last 7 games. So even with his dismal performance, and I know we got off topic before, he's still leading the league in the last 7 games in rushing. We need to make sure that we can establish that run, like you said, to keep Peterson off the field, allow our defense to rest. Because if we can allow the defense to rest, then we'll be able to control the tempo of this game. And so my last key to victory here, Evan, special teams. The last time we played the Vikings, Patterson returned that kickoff for 109 yards. I think we got to make sure that special teams, that we are not allowing a big play to give up points, because points are going to be at a premium this week. And I know we did pretty well after that, but that kid can run. And so we're going to have to make sure that we're very solid on special teams. And I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. Special teams with that big injury report concerns me, because is that special teams unit a makeshift unit this week, or is it something that has actually been cohesive and been practicing together? Because if it's a makeshift special teams, then I worry about Patterson taking one all the way to the house or getting that big return. What do you think about the special?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you think about the special teams play in this game?
Well, that's got to be very key. And if you look at the list, you have Micah Hyde, you have James Nixon, you have Andy Mulamba, who have been key special team clogs this year. So it is troubling seeing those 3 guys on the list. And it is going to be key because unlike last time they played, I don't know if the Packers have the firepower to recover from an opening kickoff of 109 yards. I don't know if they have the firepower to bounce back from that as quickly as they did last time they played. You know, the special teams has to be disciplined. They have to stay in their lanes, and they have to get open field tackles. And if they can't, then it's going to be a very hard game to win because the Vikings are going to win the field position battle. And when you have a game like with these 2 teams, with how they're built right now, field position is key. I don't want to see Scott Tolzien having to drive 90 yards, 95 yards for scores, and I don't want to see Kristen Ponder taking over the football at the 27 to 37 yard line. I want to see him taking over the football inside the 25.
No,
that's what I want to see happen.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and you make a very good point. We are not built right now with Tolzien in the game to be a team that's going to be able to come back even from 2 touchdowns down. Now, the one thing we didn't talk about is the deep pass. You know, when I look at the Vikings defense, and I'll throw the numbers out, they're 29th against the pass. I think that we're going to...
They're awful. They're missing Smith in that lineup big time right now.
I'll tell you what, safety play, and this could be a future ramble. I think one of the most overlooked positions in the NFL right now is a good safety. I mean, and you and I knew that from earlier in the season when we were missing our safety. Safety play is very key. That is the quarterback to the defense. And yes, they're missing him. With that said, with that poor pass defense, I think we're going to have an opportunity to get 1 or 2 of those big plays. And I'm just hoping that we can connect on it. And I don't know how many times we're going to attempt it, but I think we're going to have to take a couple chances in this game. Because like you said, this is not going to be the 44-31 shootout that it was the first time these 2 teams met. It could very well be a lower scoring game than that, and we'll get into our predictions here shortly. But I'll tell you, points are going to come at a premium. Going to have to make every drive count. Can't turn the ball over. Establish the run. Just got to play good fundamental offense, defense, and special teams. But I honestly believe, Evan, and I'll get right into my prediction, this is the game that's going to be able to turn the season around, get us back to 6-5, get some confidence in Tolzien. If Rodgers cannot come back for Thanksgiving, at least give him some confidence going into that Thanksgiving Day game against the Lions. I think the Packers are going to pull this one out, but I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be 24-21 Packers. I think the Vikings actually score late to cut the lead to 24-21. But I think what's going to happen in the second half, the Packers are going to do exactly what you said, Evan. They're going to establish Eddie Lacy. I think he's going to have a great game. I think he's going to bounce back. I think they're going to run a little bit of play action. And I think the Packers take this 24-21. What do you think?
Well, last time these two teams played, as you mentioned before, and I mentioned before, the shootout, the Packers did not punt once the entire game, and they had a very high third down percentage conversion. Unfortunately, I don't think the Packers are going to have the luck that they don't punt the entire game, but I do think the Packers should win this game with Tolzien in there. If I see Eddie Lacy getting 120 yards easy against the Vikings, even with stacked box, because they're not very good, and as you said, they don't cover the pass very well. So I could see Tolzien having a pretty decent day too. Now it comes down to if he is going to turn the ball over or not. Now I see a lower scoring game too. I give the Packers 24, but I give the Vikings 14. I don't see the Vikings having the firepower right now with the possible injuries to Peterson, to Jennings, to Rudolph. I don't see them having the firepower to put a lot of points on the board. I see them scoring a touchdown or two late, making it to 14 points. I see them holding the Vikings to at most 7 for most of the game, but I can't see them getting a touchdown late. So I say 24-14. It'll be a 10-point victory, and it'll be a nice bounce back win after these 3 straight losses. When was the last time they lost 3 straight?
2008.
Yeah, so the last time they lost 3 straight was 2008. You got that stat earlier, so I wanted to use it.
Well, actually, I know we're running at 32 minutes, so we're just about ready to wrap up, but I'm going to throw this stat out because I did put it on your Daily Cowboys Football Fix when I was posting last night's show. But for those that don't go to the site, I want to throw this out for those Packer fans that are doubting right now. The last time that we won the Super Bowl was 2010, correct?
Yep.
And during that year, we remember what happened. The expectations were high, not Super Bowl high when the season started, but we had just come off a playoff year where we lost in the first round. In that year, Evan, in 2010, we were 3-3, and we bounced back. Kind of weathered.
It was the big win against the Jets. I think it was like a 9-0 game.
Yep, but we weathered the storm. Ended up 9-6. We got hot at the end of the season and won the Super Bowl. Guess what happened the year before in 2009, Evan? We were 4-4. I'm not even giving you a chance to answer, bud. I'm just cutting right in because
a long time.
Well. But like you said, this just got my blood boiling when I saw this in a good way. We were 4-4 in 2009, struggling at best. We beat the Cowboys, and then we won 7 of 8 games and made the playoffs. Now, we did lose in the first round, but my point is, we're 500 right now, and if we can get a win against the Vikings, why can't we go on one of those runs again? And so that's all I wanted to say with that. Thanks for bringing that stat up. I had to pull it out.
No problem. I wanted you to use it.
Yeah, it was a good stat. I loved it. So with that said, bud, we're ready to wrap up. We're both in agreement. Packers are going to get 24. I'm saying it's 24-21. You're saying 24-14. We're both in agreement. The Packers are going to win, go to 6-5. Hopefully it turns their season around. With that said, bud, though, I'm going to let you wrap it up with your thank yous here at the end.
Well, once again, thank you for all our listeners and our support, especially with Cass and help me out here with the website.
Your Daily Cowboys Footballfix.com. I mean, it's a mouthful.
Yeah.
It is a mouthful.
Yeah. So thank you for her and her site and the listeners we're gaining on there. And there's a couple Facebook groups that I posted this on too, and last night's show, and I'm starting to get a lot of comments regarding tanking the season, which thankfully most of them are saying heck no in regards to tanking. But just thank you for everyone that's interacting with us and making this a fun show.
Yeah, and I'll just wrap up, Evan. And I'll give our fans and our listeners the outlets and venues to actually give us their opinion. We love the interaction. First place, of course, is at Twitter. You guys can find us. We always are tweeting. We got Evan and myself.
Tweet too much almost.
Yeah, I think we do, and sometimes I think they think I'm spam. Our second avenue though is Facebook, and it is Red Light Ramble. I know that Evan and I have posted the link. We also do have an email, though, and nobody has actually utilized it yet, Evan, and I think that's because we just don't put it out. But for those listeners that want to send us an email to have a lot more characters, feel free to email us at redlightsportsramble@gmail.com. And then, of course, our last avenue is our new home, and that's what I'm going to call it. I feel right at home with Cass, but it's on yourdailycowboysfootballfix.com. There's actually some good interaction from our show with other Cowboy fans, and I'm not talking rude people. I'm not talking rude other fans. Very educated people on this website that talk really highly.
Very polite.
Yeah, very polite. They're educated about NFL football, and the talk on that website is just amazing, and I love it. So we have a lot of avenues for our listeners to go to. With that said, Evan, always my pleasure to co-host with you. We'll get together tomorrow night, but for our fans, we'll see you at the next red light. Have a good night. Go Pack, go.